Greetings everyone. Welcome to the New Straits Times Industry Dialogue. Now today we've got an interesting topic that we will be discussing with an equally interesting lineup of guests that I am pleased to have with me here today. The title of today's dialogue is The Business of Motorsports, Racing Towards the Future. And allow me to please introduce my esteemed line of panelists. On my left, we have Dato' Ian Loh, the chairman of Shell Malaysia. And next to him is Dato' Razlan Razali, the chief executive officer of Sepang International Circuit, SIC, the home of motorsports in Malaysia. Next to him is Adelaine Foo, the founder and chief executive officer of the Automotive College, TOC, Malaysia's leading automotive institution of higher learning. And lastly, but not least, a man that needs no introduction, Alex Yong, Malaysia and Southeast Asia's only Formula One driver and record three-time Audi R8 LMS winner. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about racing towards the future of motorsports. Dato' Razlan, if I may, Malaysia, SIC being the home of motorsports, what can we, the Malaysians and motorsports enthusiasts from across the region, look forward to in terms of exciting new events that Sepang will be holding in terms of promoting and motorsports to a wider audience?
Well, as everybody knows that we hosted our last Formula One after 19 years this year.
Yes.
So that doesn't really help your question. So
yes.
we're already losing the most prestigious motorsport
But
event.
we had a successful MotoGP race.
Exactly.
Yes.
So MotoGP is another crazy success story, which have been in Malaysia much longer than
Yes.
Formula One since 1991.
Yes, at the old Batu Tiga circuit in
Correct.
Shah Alam.
But in general, in terms of Sepang circuit, we are fully utilized with events, track bookings, and so on.
The S1K just took place last weekend.
So we have various events still now. We have, for next year, moving forward, we have MotoGP as our big grand event, Blue Ribbon event.
Yes.
Then we have National Championship, including Sepang 1000. And of course, in terms of promoting motorsports, we are receiving tremendous amount of bookings every year. We fully utilize more than 95% in a year in terms of track days. So in general, although we can't really quantify it, I think the health of Malaysian motorsports is very positive. It's increasing actually.
What's your thoughts on this, Alex? In terms of the health of motorsports and how it's growing in Malaysia?
Oh, wow, we go straight to the big question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I think SIC, especially over the last half a decade, I mean, the job that we've done, especially on the motorbike side of things, has been very, very good. It's a great success. It has been getting better. But we also have to remember that motorsports, we also have to look back a little bit before we move forward.
Yeah.
And we have to recognize that in the 90s, I think, in my view, motorsports on the grassroots level was a lot stronger. We had Batu Tiga, like you said,
yes.
we had Pasir Gudang was functioning as one of the best circuits in
yes.
Southeast Asia, in my view. And then Sepang came along the line as well. And now that Formula One is away, I think we need to, and that's why I'm so happy to be here, is
yes.
to really look at the next direction
yes.
where we go. Because Formula One has dominated. And I'm the first to say that I'm also one of those people that's benefited from that. That final push to get into Formula One was because we had a track
yes.
here. But the long and the short of it is Formula One didn't do anything for local grassroots racing. It's a very exclusive kind of sport. It's too expensive to get involved in. And because of so much focus on Formula One, we saw generally, from Malaysian society's point of view, we forgot about grassroots racing. Yes, we had some karting. We had the Cup Prix going strongly,
yes.
which was still good, which allowed us to build for what we have now, motorbikes. But there's nothing else going on. We didn't have any manufacturers from independent manufacturers making cars. We lost a lot of our machine capabilities. We lost our edge as the leading country for motorsports in the region. That's kind of changed now. China's got 10 racetracks now, and even Thailand is pushed ahead of us now, with the focus that they have with local motorsports. So I would like to think now Formula One is gone, and I really do hope one day it comes back. But for now, let's try and have the focus on local grassroots racing. We've had so much success with motorbikes, principally through SIC's efforts and obviously the supporters and partners around that. Now let's focus on the other stuff, whether it's rallying, with, open wheelers, and cars again. And I was hoping we'd get to this bit later on in the discussion, but we also need other facilities as well. SIC is fully booked all the time. We need more grade 2 tracks, more grade 3 tracks. Klang Valley could support 2 more grade 3 tracks quite easily, I think. And that would really help bolster the industry here to get it back to the level where I feel it should be.
But I think SIC is doing a wonderful job in
no
terms
question.
of nurturing talent, if you don't mind me by saying, because they recently Petronas announced the race line team, correct me if I'm wrong, or is it Sprinter?
Petronas Sprinter racing team.
And you're developing young talent. We've seen over the years coming through the ranks, Hafiz Sharin, and then we've seen Khairul Idham Pawi and Adam Noruddin. So that's for motorcycling. And how about in terms of developing perhaps drivers? Or
the whole objective, number one, we are circuit operators.
Okay.
Our nature of business actually managing and operating the circuit.
Yes.
It's not our business really to develop talent. Really, I mean, you look at all the circuits around the world. We're the only one.
Yes.
If you look at MotoGP in the season, there's only 3 circuits that actually actively involved in racing teams in developing their riders. There's Qatar, there's Brno, virtually because the owner owns the circuit and the racing team, and us. But the reason why we venture into this, because we strongly believe that, an event like MotoGP has been around in Malaysia for 26, 27, 28 years. It's no longer a spectacle event like Formula One. Okay, I think the fans want more than that. Okay, and to do that, it's very simple. You just to put a boy in the World Championship, create a local hero. Although in the beginning, having to make up the numbers is good enough, but after a while they want results. And thank God we managed to get a few Malaysians that has the results. So by default of that, we had to do it. Okay. Ideally, we want the likes of Petronas, Shell, or what to do it, because we're not supposed to do it. But now it became a responsibility to us. We're leading this talent development, and until we see more private sectors coming in to do it, then maybe we hold back and focus back on what we're doing.
And that's exactly right, because it is not your responsibility to do it. And that's why with a couple other more facilities, I think a bit more support to club racers, the ones who have the passion to turn up every weekend, and we know who they are. But they just need more time at those sort of tracks. We hopefully can have teams taking on that responsibility who can then attract the corporate sponsors, because the product is good enough, so we can get more people into the sport.
Dato' Ian, Shell has been a strong supporter of motorsports in the country, especially with MotoGP. You are the main partner. So fans were raving about the Shell Hill Stand experience, and about how things were pushed up a notch this year. So what else could we see from Shell in terms of involvement in motorsports and promoting motorsports in the country?
Yeah, we love MotoGP in Malaysia because it's fun, it's exciting, it's competitive, and it's a great showcase for our products. So it's a very natural sponsorship for us. This year we put up the hill stand as something new that we haven't done before. And what we did was we were very kindly given a kilometre strip on the side of the track. So we sold 20,000 tickets. We had lots of food trucks, we had buskers, and we had games for people. So, you know, they could really enjoy it. But I think for me, the trick and what we need to do next is to try and extend the excitement beyond the race weekend. Because I think we have a great product for the weekend already, close to 100,000 people on Sunday. Now, how do we then extend this and get people excited about it through the year? And that's the area we're thinking of. How do we make use of our customer base? Because we have 10 million customers a week coming to our retail site. So how do we make use of that to get people excited through the year on motorsports?
So, okay, talking about motorsports, Adelaine, yes, you know, education is a very important part. And since it is the business of motorsports, I understand that you know, you have developed and nurtured talent in terms of auto mechanics. Have any of your students managed to go getting involved with any racing teams across the years for the past 12 years, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes. So for our own college, we have a race team, so they could practice what they learn in the classroom, and the teachers get to practice live motorsports as well. As they have nothing to teach the students. After they graduate from college, they would work with the race team. So we're very excited every time we go to SIC. In every pit we pass by, we'll have someone say, "Oh, hi teacher," because they've graduated and gone on to work with professional race teams. With some students who go on to F3 in Japan, for example, and over a test weekend they would tweet us or send us a message on Facebook. So motorsports is a sport, and like any sports, it needs talents, not just the talents of the sports person, but also everyone behind the scenes helping to nurture that person to be the ultimate representative for the country, to carry the country's flag. So we're very excited that our students have been part of bringing the motorsports industry for Malaysia to the forefront.
Apart from you know, nurturing them with the necessary skills to become successful auto mechanics, safety is paramount both on and off the track. So I'm sure you prioritize on safety when disseminating knowledge to them, and when, like you said, you know, you have your own race team and you send them out to the track. So do you work together with, say, SIC or corporate companies like Shell on having safety campaigns and promoting safety, both not just for racing, but for on public roads as well?
Actually, motorsports is very safe if it's practiced in a proper venue,
in a
like
controlled
SIC.
Environment.
Yes. So,
but just to add, motorsport is also very dangerous. Even at a facility like SIC, it is still very dangerous. We do have various fatalities. Of course, the high-profile one was Marco Simoncelli in 2011.
Yes.
You know, so even a professional do get hurt badly. But I think, sorry to interrupt. For us, safety is paramount. Safety is key, even with the circuit. Beginning with our title sponsor, I mean, they are very anal when it comes to safety, especially Shell. You know, the kind of compliance that the global Shell Global requests from us it's crazy, but we complied nevertheless that we have to. Then we complied with the authority bodies like FIA and FIM in terms of the preparation of the circuit. Already during F1 we had an incident where a grating came loose and a Haas Formula 1 car hit it and crashed badly, although the driver was fine. So we had to comply. And we follow these standards across to our national championship even. You know, so we provide all the medical personnel that's required, etc. You know, so we are very, very focused on safety because, again, besides we do have fatalities at the circuit. You know, what else if you go outside the circuit at a temporary racetrack and all that? Then the danger is much more open.
Yeah. I mean, definitely right. I mean, because it's all relative, isn't it? Because motorsports is a lot safer than it used to be decades ago.
Ago.
And of course, compared to racing on the
On
road,
the
it's
roads,
thousands of times safer.
But
But,
it's
we always have to essentially remember that,
Yeah.
that it is.
But it's
dangerous.
also a great platform to enhance the safety of just basic road transport. I mean, take the track, for example, at SIC. Right?
Yeah.
That track is shell bitumen, and we did a lot of R&D
Yes,
to make
correct.
sure that the traction that surface gives you is very good,
Yes.
and that then helps us build better and safer roads for other people.
Yes.
The safety equipment that gets developed for racing finds its way into normal road bikes or even the protective
Yes.
gear that they wear.
Yeah.
So I think motorsports, yes, it's a dangerous sport, but it can be run safely. And because of the focus on safety, I think it's also a great learning for fans of motorsport
Yes.
to take away from the sport that, hey, you can be safe and you should protect yourself and you should make sure your equipment is operating in the right way, you do the right checks before you go on the road.
Yeah.
So we believe that there is no inconsistency between our passion for safety and sponsoring motorsports, because we believe that one actually enhances the other.
And safety is an attitude, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's not a skill that you learn.
Yes.
And it's not a campaign that you do over a weekend. It's about having that attitude. And any job is
Yeah.
20% skill, 80% attitude.
Yes.
So if you have that attitude to ensure that it's safe for not just you yourself, but everyone around you, then it will be all right.
And that's a very interesting point, because like you said, you have one of your mechanics in F3 teams in Japan and stuff, because that is basically, other than the top level, but I mean, I'm talking on the lower levels, that's the only way you can improve, because you can teach them the safety
Yes.
things in a classroom, but you only really learn properly through apprenticeship.
Yes.
And you have to have access to apprenticeship with good teams,
Yes.
because there are thousands of race teams around the world. But you need to try and expose our boys or our engineers,
Or
or
girls.
drivers, or
Girls,
girls,
yeah.
sorry, of course girls as well. And it's good to see we're having it's an increasing curve with more female participation. But we need to have that apprenticeship with the right teams, and it needs to come down to the teams at the grassroots level as well, which is something perhaps we have struggled to have in the past.
Yeah.
And I think the more encouragement of that should benefit the industry as a whole.
On campaigns, I mean, we do safety campaigns, and we try and start them really young, because because it is an attitude. It's something that you want to inculcate in kids quite young. So
Yes.
we tend to go to schools, and sort of at the age when they're about to get their driver's or rider's license, and we try and educate them. So we have a program called Shell Selamat Sampai, where we take them through the basics on safety, how to not just ride safely, but in terms of how to stay safe.
Yes.
And this year we took the graduating class from Bintulu, 100 of them, to the track. So they had great time at the Shell Hill stand
Track.
during the
MotoGP.
MotoGP
Yes.
as a reward for graduating from a safety course that we ran for them.
Adelaine, going back to what Dato' Ian said earlier, about technological advancements in safety. Like for example, now they've got airbag suits for motorcycle riders. Although it's costly, but it does lower the risk of harmful or fatal injuries in the event of a mishap or accident. Could we know if your institution of higher learning is perhaps exploring the possibility of developing safety equipment through teaching and bringing about new generation of mechanics and engineers?
The important thing for us to teach our students is to ensure that they're not a hazard to anyone else.
Yes.
So as far as technology is concerned, yes, we rely very heavily on the industry partners
Yes.
to contribute what they would like their future manpower to have. So this relationship between the industry and education institutions is key to be as close as possible. We don't create we really depend on the industry to share what they expect from the manpower that they would eventually hire from us. And yes, we do go around the world to get as much technology as we can to bring to Malaysia to teach the Malaysian kids, and also the international students who come to us. But the relationship with the industry to input is important.
Datuk Razlan, you know, we have a lot of young aspiring motorsports enthusiasts who come for Sunday track days in Sepang. So I'm sure that SIC incorporates and enforces strict safety regulations even for Sunday races.
Well, of course. Being a former tool racer before this job,
Yes.
What I noticed during the track days that was organized by SIC is free for all.
Yeah.
Okay, meaning that you have 200-300 motorcyclists that comes to the track and they just ride, regardless of experience.
Yes.
And we see a lot of crashes every few minutes. So people like us it's not an enjoyable track session.
Yes.
So what we have done when I came in, that we have restructured it in a way that we've formatted in a way that it's based on categories, limit the numbers, so that you can enjoy the track days to the maximum. And moving forward, we are building a driving experience facility for safety, for advanced and safety driving. Basically, it's offside the track, near the go-kart track.
Okay.
It's a driving facility, driving experience facility, defensive driving, that simulates all kind of driving conditions.
And situations, of course.
And
Emergency
situations, correct.
especially.
Rain, slippery, and whatnot. It's something that we emulate what's existing in other countries. And that is our way of promoting safety. Learning from my own personal experience, where my daughter had her first driving license, and I was sitting next to her, and we were in an emergency situation, and she panicked, I panicked, and I, as far as I know, they don't learn these things in getting their license. So I think that this is crucial and should be accessible to the general public who come and pay a nominal fee and experience what it's like, for emergency situation during the rain, what happens if the car slides, this and that, especially for first-time license holders.
I mean, in my experience, I've seen it all around the world. Anyone that does these additional programs to supplement what you learn in a driving test always helps.
Yes.
And we've seen what motorsports do has helped in the public. Programs, the one you're talking about, the one that Shell has. We need more of these programs.
Yes.
But the message really also needs to. It's not down to the operator to have a specific public announcement message, and it is quite tricky, because what you're talking about when you talk about safety, I think you're alluding to what's happened on the roads, because the roads is the worst. It's one of the biggest problems we have here in Malaysia, is the deaths on the roads, and again, trying to get those attitudes changed, because you see in motorsports, the locals are understanding the attitudes about how to repair and look after their vehicles better, but you don't see it on the roads. For example, you talk to the tire suppliers. They will tell you that all the new tires, the largest bulk of the tires that they sell on the road are in Thailand and Singapore. But here in Malaysia, we don't buy new tires. People use tires till they're bald or they rethread them. And that's why we see so many accidents. And more importantly, that's why we see everyone going so slow when it rains. Because they'll have one accident and they don't understand why they had the accident, but it's because their tires are bald. And for the rest of their life, whenever it rains, they will go slow, because they don't understand that they had an accident because the tires didn't have enough thread on them.
On the youth, coming back to your earlier point about youth, I think it's important that we have role models that talk and speak out about safety. They probably won't listen to people like us, but they will listen to their heroes. And I think the more that we have people like Hafiz or Adam, and if we can get more coming through the ranks, where they become the role, and Alex, of course.
I'm a bit older than I don't connect with the youth anymore.
It's important, and we struggle to find enough of these role models to help us get our message through.
But the problem that you're talking about, youth racing on the public roads is because we, like what Alex said earlier, we don't have enough motorsport events, grassroots events for them to
Or tracks
let
for them
out
to,
their steam.
yeah.
So if the public understands that motorsports belong in a racetrack,
In a controlled
Yeah.
environment.
correct.
Because you can't just say don't race. The kids, we've all done it. You know, we've all gone through that stage. We
The
just
more you
have to-
tell them don't, the more they want to do it.
we need to provide more locations for them to do it safely. You know, SIC, you know, you do your Saturday Night Live, there's so many events to get the kids off, but it's just one facility. You know, there's a lot of people in Klang Valley. You know,
Well,
we
we've
need
heard,
more.
we've heard. I mean, we saw a new track in Johor, for one. And, you know,
Yeah.
we heard of the government wants to build a track up north in Kedah.
Kedah, yes.
Okay, but I agree. I think we need, and coming from Sepang Circuit, we need smaller tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, we need an avenue for these youth and kids to let go their whatever it is on the track rather than on the road.
And we're not saying we need the government to do it all for us, because I think that's unreasonable as well, because the private sector can. There is a value in having more racetracks that can make money as a business.
Yes.
You know, not the size of Sepang, you know, not a Formula One size one. That's too
Like
big.
what you said, you know,
But a smaller one
Yeah.
is very possible. We just need the right location, and money can be found.
Something like
From
the
the
old
private
Batu
sector.
Tiga circuit and the Pasir Gudang
Exactly.
circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just a little bit further out, because that property in that area would be too expensive. But you know, it is possible.
But you know, what do you guys think? I mean, like what Datuk Razlan said, and like what you said, Alex, you know, about having more smaller circuits. Do you think that over time this could help send a message across to the younger upcoming generation and get their excitement, focus to you know, letting out their adrenaline and interest for racing in a controlled environment?
Do you mind if I take that? I mean,
Yeah.
I strongly believe that we need it desperately. For sure, it will help. Many venues that are easy to go to, cheaper to go to, you don't need such a long lead time to plan these days, will help. But not only that, I think the industry in Malaysia is busting at the seams.
Yes.
You know, it's come along a lot in the last few years, almost exclusively down to the stuff SIC has been doing, you know, when it should be really our local ISN. But I feel there is a bottleneck.
Yeah.
I feel if there is, the bottleneck is because we don't have the enough venues. We only have one venue. And if we had more venues, not only would you see get more kids off the street, but you would see a rapid expansion of the industry. Because there is a bottleneck, and you see, and you'll see it'll be very good for the industry to have
What do you
those
think?
venues.
What do you think is the reason behind the what do you call it? The slower pace, or rather the delay in you know, setting up of such circuits? Is it the what do you call it? The fear that it might not be a financially viable option?
I don't know. I've done a few business stands, business proposals on this, and I think
Yes.
it would make money back very fast. It's a 5-year
Well,
program.
if it's managed properly, you know, I mean, motorsport as well is full of. I mean, I hate to term it mafias in some ways. You know, I mean, there's people, a lot of parties who thinks it's quick money making.
You can make
business.
a quick buck.
In ideally, you can't. You can make money in the long run, but quickly it's difficult. You know, even building a small track is not cheap.
Yes.
Okay, a small track like the one in Johor, for example, is really cost something like 15 million. Okay, and the one that was estimated in Kedah, in Sungai Petani, the last time I checked, we provided a proposal, was something like in the region of 15-20 million.
So these tracks are still at the proposal phase.
I know the one in Johor is, again, then it's administration problem. You know, you give it to someone who don't understand motorsport, then they build it the wrong way, and it's a waste of money. You know, so that's what happened. We saw in Johor when I went. You know, there's a lot of fault. It cannot be run safely. You know, so it's a combination. You know, but again, if it's supported and funded by the private sector, I think it's easier. But if it becomes like a public service kind of thing, it takes longer, and it takes, you know, few parties to actually make it work. Then it slows everything down, and at the end of the day, it's not built properly. become a waste of money.
I think
and on
that-
the on the corporate side, you know, MotoGP is the pinnacle of the sport. So it's maybe not as accessible to all the companies that might be willing to participate. But if you get down deeper into, you know, the grassroots of motorsports, then there are lots of companies, tire companies, you know, the component companies, but also any other companies that want to associate themselves with excellence, with disciplines, with technology, with innovation. These are all, you know, the sort of attributes companies like to associate themselves with.
So if these attributes were in place, then
I think if we had sort of more grassroots events at state level or even national level, I think you can attract sponsors who are prepared to, you know, support those.
I think, though, the motorsports industry as a whole is so elusive to the general public. They actually have no idea how to get into the motorsport industry because it's so expensive.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there are a few things here, because you're just talking about, you're right, because when I look at sponsorship proposals, there's a whole list of companies who would never be ready, who are presently not ready for MotoGP or Formula 1. But they're just like you have young drivers coming up, you have young sponsors coming up who are interested in a smaller package, done right, cheaply, that they can grow as well with. And yes, tracks are expensive, and yes, if you take the motorsport industry as it is now, it can't justify the cost of the track. But I can't give you figures on this, but from what I've seen happen in countries throughout my whole career, if we can have a few more tracks, the motorsport industry will grow. It will go past this bottleneck, and there will be more people coming into it, there will be more people touching and seeing it and feeling it. And like I said, I can't give you figures, but from my years of experience, you will see a lot more people come into the sport.
Think of the motorsport industry as the internet. The internet is not controlled by any organization. It is user generated, and it's free. So the cost of entry is very low. So if we keep motorsport industry, or we open it, the cost of entry becomes very low, and it becomes a lifestyle for everyone that motorsport is a safe thing to go into, and you go into properly. And more people go into it, and suddenly everybody makes more money. It's not about the few corporate sponsors. It's about everyone enjoying the game safely, everyone getting rich together, and more talents will be built.
Well, they also need a little bit of love, though, I think, because at this next stage we're talking about, there'll be a lot of doing it for the love of the sport as well. But once they are built, and, you know, further down the line, yes, I think everybody will have those opportunities.
Maybe it's one step at a time, as opposed to having one in the south, one in the north. Well, concentrate on the next one, and everybody, you know, channel their energies and funds into making the next one happen.
That's what's being done right now. Slow and steady, one at a time. So we saw that in Johor. We were consulted. I mean, just to sidetrack a little bit, we were consulted, and unfortunately, it was not done the way it should. You know, we were not consulted any further than that, and then suddenly it was just completed.
Not done the way it should.
It's completed.
It's completed. And in fact, Capri ran one race there with a lot of safety problems, and now it's being rectified again. So I'm not sure where it is right now. Then after Johor, then there was Kedah was supposed to come up, but then there's delays for whatever reasons. So not to say that, you know, small trucks are mushrooming everywhere. It is one at a time, which is, I think, is progress. But it's just that once it get going, again, through whatever issues, administration issues or whatever, it's just not done properly. I mean, how many tracks we've seen, even go-kart track, that was built but it was not done properly, and then closed down after less than a year. You know.
Out of all the local stuff that's going on, I think you're right. But the go-kart scene is. It is happening, at least. It is ticking over. We are seeing some pretty professional teams in that. There's still that question mark every year about how we can grow it further. And motorsports, in go-karts, you're selling dreams. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and that's what you need to
unrealistic
do.
Dreams.
Yeah, unrealistic dreams. But maybe Shell want to own a facility one day and.
Well, look, we sponsor motorsports across the world. We're in NASCAR, we're in Formula 1, we're in MotoGP. You know, we were in the Le Mans. So, you know, I think it's a great platform for us. So we will always be prepared to, you know, sponsor probably at the pinnacle of the sport. But yeah, deeper down, I think the local companies will be looking to see how we can get involved.
So if I may just share a story, because Shell's been involved in motorsports for a long time. I remember in '91 when we had the first MotoGP race at Shah Alam.
Yeah.
They actually painted the pit lane tarmac red and it had Shell branding on the tarmac. It was very, very bright.
It's a nice idea. I
Yeah,
should talk
it's
to
a good
Ryan.
I think it's the only track that's ever had a red tarmac just in
Yes.
pit lane. It's just for the Shell branding. It's very
Yellow
cool.
stripes.
Like earlier, what Dr. Ian said, Shell's involvement is at the pinnacle of the sport. They go at international class events. So in terms of, the local events, to promote motorsports, to not just, promote talent, but monetize it, is it something that local companies you think might undertake?
Yeah, perhaps for other local companies. As far as my school is concerned, we would be extremely happy to be placing our students to work properly in more motorsports races.
But as we can see, like an example, Capri.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I mean, I don't consider Capri now as a grassroots because it comes to the point that it's a local race, but it's professionally run locally, so it's no longer grassroots.
It's national level.
It's national level. Yeah, I mean the cost of entry, for Capri machine is already like 100,000, 150,000 a year. The kind of equipment that they use. The components on the bike, on a small so-called Kapchai bike, they have quick shifters, they have whatever it is that you can get on a superbike machine, but it's nationwide. It's a street race. They go everywhere in Malaysia, but participation by local companies are huge. It's free. I think minimum 10,000 people, spectators goes because it's in the city. I mean, it's in town, so it's closer to the people. So I think it's a great.
There is response
event.
from the corporate sector.
They
do
take
part,
huge. Of course, in the automobile side.
But see, their model is very smart. Though. They bring the racing to the city, and it's very easy to fill out the city. We were talking about the KL Grand Prix before the show, and what a great success that was. But it's a chicken and egg bit, really, because you do need a proper track for local teams and drivers and riders to develop, and that unfortunately has to be a little bit out of town to have the space for it. And I think the next phase will have to be very creative with how they do that, because they may have to allocate 100 days to corporates like Shell, perhaps, or different manufacturers, and that might be the bigger revenue stream, and maybe we need 50 days for racing. And some other days for concerts. You've been a concert promoter yourself. You'd have to be creative with not being able to have different sources of income for that facility, but with the aim eventually for the motorsport to grow, and then that takes up a larger share of days each year.
So the other aspect of a business of motor racing is media, is the coverage. You guys. So the more you guys cover motorsports, the more it is in the minds of the general public, creates the interest and the buzz, and that's what sponsors want to see. Because the way we look at it is, what is the payback? The payback may be shifting your product. The payback may be getting yourself branding, recognition, airtime, all those things. Now, we use it also for R&D. So not every company will do that, but the way they look at it largely is through the branding and the positioning, and a lot of that is driven by media.
Following up to Dr. Ian's comment, yes, correct. I mean, we do get our fair share of media when it comes to the pinnacle of the events, F1, MotoGP, especially when we have Malaysians in the MotoGP. We have a lot. For that, yes, we give credit to the media for supporting it. But the national championship, there's basically none. Okay, so that's
what
where
you guys are saying is the media are not doing enough to
profile
and increase the profile of local events.
And that's important. I mean, not just motorsport. You look at the back pages of any publication. You see a lot about English football league, a lot of World Cup qualifiers. And then bits and pieces of our national event.
I do agree with you. Media coverage on local events is somewhat minimal, and we need to increase it if the profile is going to increase. if sponsors are going to come on board, if corporate companies are going to support such events, then yes, you need a wider media coverage.
The whole ecosystem needs to be there.
So, you know,
We'll get there.
what we're getting at now is the public is interested not just as spectators, but as participants. You know, we've got corporate companies, like you said, Dato', who come on board and, you know, sponsor the teams in terms of branding for lubricants or tires. So does motorsports have a future in Malaysia? Because like you said just now, through karting it was selling dreams.
Through participation, I believe is healthy. Okay, through participation for four wheels, and we saw an increase. Okay, for bikes it's always been there.
Yes.
You know, for cars it's up and down and depends on the categories. You know, we've lost our GT3 category. The high end is more expensive, etc. But the lower class, the 1.6cc categories like the S1K, we saw 37 entries this year compared to 30 last year. So I think it's generally healthy. The problem we have when it comes to even national championship and events like S1K is to attract the spectators to come. Each team have to work hard to get sponsors, but to come for local companies to come and really participate, you know, like Dr. Ian says, what's the ROI?
Yeah.
You know,
Return of investment.
there's no spectators, you know, there's no TV, you know. So for us, that's the challenge. We are so far away from cities. It's not enough for them to even come and watch national championship compared to MotoGP and Formula One. So we struggle in that end.
I think there's a problem with Asia-wide, which I'm seeing. I see it in every track around Asia, especially. You know, we don't have the culture of going to races.
Yes.
Japan is not so bad.
Yeah.
But I do see changes, you know, like in China and Thailand and Malaysia. It's always a struggle. So the local series would get their ROI from great TV production on YouTube or Facebook or on the channels, and that they would get the ROI. But it would be better to get the crowds there. But I do see it changing now in China. I do see some more crowds starting to turn up, and I'm hoping, you know, the great success story we have with MotoGP, that it will also start to change here for local races. That's what I hope. I think it will.
So you believe there is a future?
I definitely do. I think now that Formula One is gone, I would like to see perhaps a blueprint, and maybe some of that direction focused to help bump start it. Because we had a self-sustaining motorsport industry that was completely self-sustained in the 90s. Didn't need any help.
Do you think that
It's coming along very nicely. Sorry if you don't mind.
sorry.
It's coming along very nicely, and we can get there. It just needs a little bit of a bump start now. Formula One is gone for now. Let's give it a little bit of a bump start.
Do you think you know, personalities like you could give it a push to?
To a certain degree. I mean, I've been trying to push my whole career, whether it's not for me, but for other stuff. You know, I've owned race teams. I've advised on certain things. It's been like hitting in my head against a brick wall, to be honest. Yeah, you know,
Well, if I can
hope
share,
they can change.
sorry, Alex, if I can share with you, you know, with us no longer hosting Formula One, the government did make a commitment that there will be some fund for motorsport development for Malaysia. There are funds that we could tap on to look into other events besides Formula One, cheaper events that can bring some kind of benefit to the country, to Malaysian motorsport. They've made a commitment to support. In fact, there's already budget allocated for budget 2018. Okay. But like Alex was saying, we need to have a blueprint, we need to have a plan. Right now, we are focusing so much on two wheels because there's a strong correlation to Malaysian MotoGP.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we do it. So now with four wheels, I think four wheels is a major issue for us right now. Is what is it that we're going to do?
Yeah.
You know, we need to do something realistic, something that can really contribute to the local economy, to the local companies, and all that. I mean, we do not want to sell dreams, unrealistic dreams. Formula One should not be the target. You know, we shouldn't say, you know, to these 7-year-olds, you know, you go into go-kart so you can go into Formula One. That's wrong. Okay, so we need to establish something.
And we've talked about this. I don't know. I don't have any clear answers yet. But it needs to be a top-down approach. You know, even like I actually personally think the future of Malaysian motorsports is S1K. Those sort of cars.
Yes.
It's not Formula One. It's not really WEC. It's not even GT3. The stuff I drive, because those are still outpriced too much for us. We need. So, but we still need to focus on that, because that's where the professionalism is. That's where the excellence is. We need to have our mechanics, our drivers in that, but in this region, and supporting the region. But also, we need to be able to give these guys who are doing S1K, who is much more accessible. We need to help push them, and they've got some good teams that are getting up in standard all the time, and drivers are coming up in standard all the time. We need to push these guys to help them grow, so that eventually they can meet in the middle somewhere. And we need to figure it out. It's not anyone else coming here and telling us what to do. We have the people here to figure it out.
And you know, like the discussion we were having earlier before the program about, you know, possible technical partnerships to, well, put dreams aside, reality, TOC. Like I told you, I pass by daily. I see your students' cars parked outside. Most their cars and bikes are heavily modified. You can see, you know, the interest is there. So perhaps if they can't pursue their dreams of becoming professional drivers or riders, there is the other avenue of working behind the scenes as mechanics, as pit crews, as managers. And do you think that, you know, technical partnerships between sponsors, companies, or institutions of higher learning could bring about a win-win situation, whereby, you know, companies could develop talent, but at the same time garner profits from having a symbiotic win-win partnership?
I think to attract the general public into an industry, it's always about clarity. And if they are clear about what are the careers they could get, a race team is not just the driver. Yes, it's the most glamorous one. But to make this event work, it's not just you, it's everyone else behind the cameras. So same with the motorsport industry. Apart from just the driver, do anyone actually know how to get into the industry? So if that entire organizational chart within a race team, for example, is clear, and it tells us what the competencies are for the person to move up the ranks, then I think that would attract more kids to want to be part of the industry, and to allow the parents to allow their kids to be part of it, so that it's not just viewed as a hobby or a weekend job, that is an actual career. So I think that would help.
And
So
it's always, it's always tempting just to think about it, because it's such a technical sport as being, you know, sort of a technical partnership. But the business side of it, the commercial side of it, is just as important to, in order to sustain, you know, the cost of actually the technology and getting the machine out there to race in a competitive way.
It has to be attractive for corporations.
So, you know, people who have an interest in a career in finance or in marketing or even in HR, you know, these are all necessary as part of the organization in order to make it
just
work.
to add to Adelaine, is that we signed an MOU with TOC during Malaysian MotoGP. To basically develop mechanics. Okay, because for us, you know, okay, good. For the last 4 years, we've set up this SIC racing team. But we utilize foreigners. We only have one Malaysian mechanic. Now next year we have two. But we need more than that. To feed talent into our racing team, we need a proper championship using a proper race machine. So we actually, in advance, bought 7 units of NSF 250Rs, which is a Moto3 machine, which is supported by Bonsyu Honda. on an ad hoc basis,
Yes,
but
yes.
we need a full-time mechanics, which we don't have.
Yes.
Okay, so we sign up with TOC for TOC to develop kits that can do that, because we are in dire straits for mechanics already.
Yeah.
You know, we have every year we have one full set of proper Moto3 machines that can be used on the track for testing and whatnot, but I don't have people to run it. It's not a Capri bike.
Yes.
You know, I can't take that bike and give it to a local company, local mechanic to do it.
Yes.
You know, it has to be properly trained and so on. So, hence, we're working together with TOC to develop skilled mechanics of certain standards, and for us, it has to be World Championship standards.
Yes.
You know, to fit into the system. Okay, and these are great careers because we have a platform for Malaysians to participate in a World Championship or Junior World Championship, travel all around the world as a career. So we have that. Now we just have to fill up. It's a huge jigsaw puzzle. So we're filling it up slowly, one by one.
I always
Absolutely.
liken the motorsport industry as to a hospital.
Yes.
An automotive mechanic is like a doctor. And like what Dr. Ian said, running a
The
hospital
machines
is
are the
not
patients.
just the doctors.
Yeah.
It's about the finance and the HR and the business behind running a hospital.
Yeah.
So there's so many parts to making a hospital work. The same with the motorsport industry. There's so many parts to making it work. But in a hospital, we know what the ladder looks like, and we know how it works and how one gets in there and what one needs to do to go up the ladder. So I think what we all need to do now is to create a structure, a proper structure for the motorsport industry, so everyone's clear how to make the hospital bigger and better.
Yeah, because what do you call it? Alex, you've been racing for years, you've been to various tracks, and you know, you've come across various pit crews. I'm sure Malaysians are few and far between.
We've got a lot of talent here, though, you know, and it's not just in motorsports. I talk with the Bukit Jalil guys as well. There's a lot of talent. It's not having the opportunity, which makes the
A platform.
talent leave that industry or that sport, which is a problem. But we have got some excellent engineers, and yes, they're not many, handful. But it's a two-pronged thing, really. We actually got a huge base of on the mechanics side, huge base of mechanics who can work on a variety of stuff, but they haven't had the correct practices instilled in them at an early age, so they have a lot of bad habits.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what stops them from jumping into a MotoGP team or into a GT3 team, let alone Formula One.
Yes, being part of an international race.
But we do have some that go to Europe at an early age, and they have those practices, and they excel.
Yes.
So we need to still support this huge base of people, because they're the lifeblood of it.
Yeah.
But we also need to have the new guys come in and not learn these practices. They need to learn the right practices
The bad habits.
of the excellent. And somewhere, like I said, they have to meet in the middle, and that's when it will be complete, I think.
You know, Dr. Ian, Shell has partnerships in Formula One and MotoGP, Ducati and Ferrari. So, I mean, overseas, the Shell in other countries, through these technical partnerships with these racing teams, do they provide a platform to train, trainee or apprentice mechanics?
No. We are very much on the fuel and lubricant side.
Okay.
So we don't get into the mechanics. That's the team's job. They won't let us anywhere near that. But what we do is we provide them with competitive fuel and lubricants so that they get the best performance. But we do a lot of R&D behind the scenes.
Yes.
For us, the real benefit in this is the R&D, to take what we learn on the track,
From the track.
and bring it to the road. So for example, the V-Power racing that
Yes.
you pump, is actually 99% of the formulation of what goes
Adeline's
into
eyes
Vettel's
lit
car.
up when you said V-Power racing that you pump.
That's 99% of what goes into Vettel's car. So, you get pretty close to the product that the racers use.
But yeah, it's so interesting, though, the oil and
Yeah.
gas industry, because, like on the oil rigs,
Yeah.
that's a huge safety risk,
Yes.
So you need a very high level
Level
of excellence, of competency, to work on those rigs. And that's a bit like on a Formula One team or a MotoGP team. You need that excellence.
Sharpness, competitiveness.
Discipline as well. I think
Yeah.
you talked about discipline. You don't pick up bad habits.
Yes.
You know, the same thing on a rig. You need to have the good habits.
Yeah.
You need to have the right attitudes on
Yes.
safety. That's why we love motorsports, because you know it is about actually really being excellent at every little thing that you do,
Yeah.
and having the discipline to do that day in and day out.
Because if you don't, oil rigs blow up, or you have brake failures on bikes and cars, and you hurt
I guess
people.
that's the message.
But on a larger structure, though, it's about supply and demand. Who are the people coming into the industry,
Yeah.
into the oil and gas industry, into the motorsports industry? It's the education system that supports vocational education, that people want to do something with their hands, and they're still graded A+, and not the other way around.
Because
Sorry, can I just see, in Europe it's very easy because you have Formula One, and Formula One can pick the biggest, the best, and the brightest from schools, just like because oil rigs, oil and gas pay so well, they pick the best and brightest. But in Europe, you have also many different layers. You have a fully functioning ecosystem right now, so you can also come in at apprentice level and work your way up. You have both opportunities.
You've got the feeder pools going up the food chain.
Here in Asia, we don't have that yet.
No.
So we have to support the feeder pools. We have to keep growing the feeder pools and help and being patient with getting them up to that level. And there will be slips and slides along the way and mishaps, but we try and minimize that. But eventually we can have that. But it's not feasible to just say we have excellent mechanic and we send them to Europe, or have excellent driver, we send them to Europe, because that doesn't benefit our ecosystem.
Yes.
And we need to concentrate on our ecosystem.
Our local motorsports scene.
Yes.
So the love is there. The avenues are there. The possibilities, of course. So I guess it's all about giving it the right push, getting the right people on the right platform, and the right exposure, and of course, what do you call it, like you said, Dato' Razlan, getting the programs tailored correctly and precisely, done well, and executed even better for it to actually work.
Yeah, more or less.
Let's start with the blueprint.
Yeah.
But it's also, doing what we're doing well already even better, right?
Yeah.
So we've got
Sure.
some really great platforms already. MotoGP is one. We're going to make it bigger and better.
Yeah.
So that hopefully will pull everything else up with it. But yeah, I like
exactly
the idea about, working it up from the bottom.
Consolidation as well, with F1 no longer in Malaysia, so we need to consolidate what we have, plan it properly, leverage on the fund that's set aside to make sure that it's fully utilized properly.
That's why, the additional funds that are made available, I like how you informed all of us and shared with us that you're going to have defensive driving school set up, and then you've got the program for apprentice mechanics to work on the racing bikes, because there is a dearth of mechanics available. So you take proactive measures to get things done, and then a continued fruitful and beneficial working relationship itself for MotoGP, which not only benefits the fans but benefits young students through positive programs that inculcates good habits and practices. So everyone working together.
Lots of stuff to ponder.
And we need more forums like this.
And on forums like this, having a discussion, but also being on the same wavelength, I suppose, knowing each and other's plans and needs and necessities as well. And like you said, return of investments are important, because nobody goes into a business, for charitable purposes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. A lengthy and all-encompassing opinions and thoughts on motorsports in Malaysia, from safety to grassroots developments to talent to the involvement and push from not just the authority but from the private sector as well. so that motorsports can not only gain a stronger foothold, but continue to thrive and benefit not just the fans, but those with dreams and aspirations to become what they want to become and help motorsports prosper even further in the country. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.